I'm Dr. Duke with the New American. Well, impeachment. This show is almost like a bellwether, isn't it? By the time we come on we do a new segment, there's some new ridiculous thing that the Democrats have promulgated, and this now is impeachment. What is really bizarre about the entire impeachment scandal is the hypocrisy of the left. We know a year ago, as Breitbart has reported, the Democrats themselves reached out to the Ukraine to seek information that would help them with the Russian collusion hoax. So high-ranking Democratic congressmen and senators have already on their own dime approached a foreign power to try to dig up dirt on a sitting president. And this was unremarked. It was unusual. It was not a big deal. There's no treason involved there. There's no high crimes involved with that. They're doing their due diligence to trying to unelect a duly elected president by summoning a foreign power. And a foreign power, by the way, that is under the orbit of Russia. The irony of that apparently is lost on everybody except non-Democrats. And so we find ourselves now with the Democrats salivating over what they consider high crimes and misdemeanors. We'll talk about that at some point as well, the idea of what impeachment means. But the funny thing is that Donald Trump dared them to do this. He's already created a fundraising video that's hysterical. In his fundraising video, Donald Trump actually thanks the Democrats for being dumb enough to try to impeach him over this. And after all the tension of the last 24 hours, Trump has now released the audio. And I've heard the audio, and many people have heard the audio, and it seems actually a lot about nothing. He's talking. He mentions Biden. He mentions that Biden and Biden's son and trying to manipulate and getting Biden trying to bragging at one point, Joe Biden, that he killed the investigation. All of which is true, by the way. Biden did brag about killing an investigation into his son's behavior, how his son got hired over there in the Ukraine. So it's a big nothing burger. And yet, now that it's been released, the Democrats have done two things. They have done, number one, they have said, well, the transcript is not enough, that we need more, right? They've moved the goalposts. Yesterday, they were screaming, give us the transcript, give us the unedited transcript, and we will impeach you. Well, now they've got it, and it doesn't give them what they want. So they're demanding the goalposts. They want a deeper investigation. They want interviews. They want all kinds of other things because, as with the Russia hoax itself, it's just a big nothing burger. On the second hand, the second part of the whole thing that's really odd, though, is not only do they moved the goalpost, they've read and they've heard what you and I have heard, which doesn't sound like much of anything. I mean, again, he's talking to a Ukrainian official, and he's pointing out that maybe we need to do an investigation into how Biden's son got involved over there and why an American investigation was actually halted by Joe Biden himself. Talk about a conflict of interest. But now that we've got the information, the liberals are saying that that's enough to impeach him. On the one hand, it's not enough, and we need a further investigation. On the other hand, it's everything we need to impeach, which tells me one thing. The Democrats are both exaggerating what's there and screaming that there has to be more. There's a very uncomfortable place for the Democrats right in the middle that they can't acknowledge, that this is all there is to it, that Donald Trump did not do anything that is itself criminal. I mean, you could question this. This reminds me of, you remember back in Obama's first couple of years when he was running for re-election, the 2011 or so before his campaign, and he sat down with Vladimir Putin, the oligarch of Russia, who everybody now has equated with Donald Trump. And when he didn't think the cameras were rolling and he didn't think he was being recorded, he sort of leans in to Putin and he promises Putin, I'm going to be your guy. If I get reelected, I won't have to run for another election. I will be free to be much more flexible. That is as damning or more damning than anything that happened here with Trump and a Ukrainian official. So the thing is bizarre, right? And I remember that very well. When that video hit the news, everybody on the left, even the moderates in the middle, were arguing that this is nothing. This is just the way presidents talk to each other. This is the way high-ranking politicians interact. We can't see it as treason. Some people were actually calling it treason. Can't see this as treason. But we fast forward to the year before Donald Trump's election, and a very similar thing happens. It's likely that Joe Biden may be a primary contender against Donald Trump, although he's beginning to fade in the polls. But the fact that Donald Trump asked about what is a legitimate scandal, how did Joe Biden get his money out of Ukraine? Was he placed in a very sensitive position? How did this come about being? And how is it that Joe Biden himself, as vice president of the United States, could brag that he actually killed an investigation? We fast forward to today, and Biden is screaming that Donald Trump is a traitor. He has to be impeached. He's violated the Constitution. Hillary Clinton is screaming that Donald Trump has betrayed the United States. This is the same Hillary Clinton who, against Department of Justice standards, had her own computer server built in her Chappaqua house, was engaging in all kinds of sensitive exchange of information that some of it we know leaked, some of it that we know got into the hands of the wrong people. Against all protocol. The same people who are now attacking Trump and absolutely demanding he be impeached, have engaged in the last election cycle, have engaged in things that are significantly worse than what Donald Trump himself is accused of. I mean, we've already got a majority of the American public, including a sizable number of Democrats, who don't want an impeachment investigation. They think impeachment isn't the right way to go. Many of Donald Trump's own enemies recognize that by impeaching him now, you're going to make him stronger. Look, those of us who support Donald Trump, we don't trust the government. We certainly don't trust Democrats. And we've heard the tape. This is not an impeachable offense. More so, the progressives have been screaming impeachment since before he was even elected. It's that story of the boy who cried wolf. Everything that's come down the road, we've heard impeach, impeach, impeach. So even if what Donald Trump has just done does rise to the level of high crimes and misdemeanors, we still wouldn't believe it, and we're just tired of it. And so already the Democrats are engaging in a process that will make the rabid left-wing base, which is what, 15, 20% of the overall population, people who already hate Donald Trump to the point that no matter what he does, they're going to despise him. No matter what he says, they're going to consider it racist. You've already got that demographic, Democrats. You've got them. And this is where I think Nancy Pelosi really screwed up. Susan Collins, the kind of Republican senator from Maine, right? In other words, the Republican female senator of Maine, who every once in a while votes with Republicans, as in the Kavanaugh case, who almost never else does, she came out today, and she called out Nancy Pelosi, saying that Nancy Pelosi is no leader, she's a follower. That Nancy Pelosi, by agreeing to this because the rabid left of her party demanded it, has actually betrayed her own folly. On some level, Nancy Pelosi knows that not only is this a losing strategy to try to impeach Donald Trump, especially over something as unimpressive as this. I mean, it's one thing if you're talking to the despot of Russia, Putin, to try to fix an election. It's another thing when you're asking a couple simple questions about how Joe Biden's son got rich in the Ukraine. These things are not comparable. And so by using this as the hill you want to die on, by using this as the episode to try to impeach Donald Trump, Nancy Pelosi has to know that she is making it more likely that he's going to be reelected. And that's where Susan Collins is exactly right. She's exactly right in the sense that the Democrats, by catering to the rabid 15, 20% of their base, not the country's base, their base, are doing something for show to placate those big money Hollywood donors. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is laughing all the way to the bank. A bank, by the way, that's not funded by the Ukraine. So in the final analysis, perhaps the best thing that could have happened to the president is that of all the things they could try to impeach him for, they went after this. They're going to fail. Russia failed. Everything else has failed. If this is the best you got, and if this is where you decide to draw that mark in the sand, Rob Reiner's going to be ecstatic. Bette Midler's going to be through the roof. Alyssa Milano is going to be overjoyed that you're impeaching. But there are tens and tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of moderate Republicans and moderate independent Democrats who aren't going to buy it.